Hey guys, welcome back to my YouTube channel. If you are new here today, my name is Gabrielle, and today I want to share something really important with you guys: how to get over a breakup. Now, this has been a long time in the making, I feel like, but it's something that I really want to share with young girls because I've been there and I know how hard it is and I want to help you. So without any further ado, I'm going to jump right in. High school relationships, I don't recommend them. Do I know a lot of people who have married their high school sweetheart? Yes, and I'm like literally so happy for them. And they're so adorable. That was not my experience. And so I really just want to share my experience and how I got over it, like some practical things that I did and some spiritual things as well that hopefully can help you guys. I liked a lot of guys growing up, but when I was 15, I started dating my first boyfriend. And I feel like because of the culture that I grew up in, I was in a Christian community, but I really felt like a lot of pressure was put on us at an early age to be like, the person you date has to be the person you marry, the very first person. You have to have all those firsts with the one that you marry. And I think that if that does happen for you, that is so beautiful, and I admire that so much. But for a lot of people, that's not what happens, and that's totally okay. And so I think I kind of had that in the back of my mind going into that relationship, and it made the aftermath a lot harder. So that relationship was very healthy for the most part and really taught me what purity was in the Lord's eyes, basically. And I don't think without that relationship that I would have understood that, and I'm so grateful for that. But, eventually things did go south, and I felt like I was being used in a way, and no hate at all. But that is kind of what happened towards the end. It was really, really hard for me spiritually because I had always just kind of relied on my parents' faith, and I don't think I had really made it my own until towards the end of that relationship. And I think that everything happens for a reason, and God used that situation to grow me spiritually. So because there was so much pressure on both of us really to marry the first person that you date and to be pure and all of these things, which, that's important, but I just felt like there was so many layers of pressure on us. And it really started to be very weighty, and ultimately it led to a point that summer where he felt like the Lord was calling him to break up with me, and I agreed with him. And as hard as it was for both of us, it was a mutual thing, but I'm not gonna sit here and say that I didn't cry all the time. I'm just gonna share my experience in the aftermath and then the things that helped me. So the aftermath, for approximately 2 to 3 weeks after that breakup, I was physically ill. I would stare off into the distance and just start crying all of a sudden. I just felt like I was dying on the inside. And at night I would have these, I would shake and I would have these horrible nightmares, and I had to sleep with my parents for almost 2 weeks because of how awful it was. And I believe that soul ties are real. I don't know if you do, but I definitely believe in that. And I don't think that you have to have sex with someone in order to share a soul tie with them, and I think in this case that is what occurred. And it was just so strongly ingrained in my mind, again because of the way I grew up, that I was basically damaged goods because I wasn't gonna be with this person forever and all of that. And it was so hard, and I wish I could just go back in time and give that person a hug and tell her that everything's gonna be okay. So after about 2 or 3 weeks, I finally thought, you know what? I cannot continue to live my life like this. I am miserable. So my radio station, I was notorious for always listening to secular music, and my mom would get on me. But a few stations over from the secular station was a radio station that would play sermons all day long. Every 30 minutes would be a new sermon from a different pastor. So that was the first thing that helped me. I started listening to sermons for 3 to 4 hours every morning, taking crazy notes and just doing everything I could to absorb what God was teaching me. The next thing I did was, before that, I sang my whole life, right? And people would always be like, oh, you should be in worship ministry, you should do this, you should do that. And I honestly would mock worship music because I didn't understand the power that it carried. I didn't understand the actual spiritual and life transformation that can happen. during a worship service or just in your home when you're worshiping God. So that was number 2. What helped me was starting to listen to worship music all the time. And my 2 favorite artists at that time were Amanda Cook and Lauren Daigle. I feel like there was someone else who was really helpful, but I can't remember. So those were the 2 main things. The other thing that I did was journaling. Now, I wasn't consistent at it. It really, really helped me. And I had like this ongoing letter that I wrote to this person, and it was kind of just my way to like detox and get all the thoughts out of my brain instead of reaching out to that person, because it's so tempting, right? Like after a breakup, you just like want to reach out, you want to have the last word, you want to say something, you want to have closure, and sometimes there's closure and sometimes there's not. And regardless, like you have to be okay spiritually with not having answers sometimes. Okay, the next thing that really, really helped me was having community. I do not think I would have been able to get through that season if I didn't have really strong girlfriends around me, supporting me, lifting me up, and if I wasn't, this is the next thing, in a Bible study, because it really refocused my eyes onto what was important and continuing to develop that relationship with the Lord. And if I hadn't had those 2 things, I really think I would have like fallen apart and lost my crap. Now, the next thing I will say that I wish I could have done in retrospect is go to counseling. I put it off for 7 years. I would go through these seasons where I was like, oh my gosh, I really need to go to counseling. And then all of a sudden I would say, no, I'm fine. I've listened to enough Taylor Swift music for the last 3 weeks to where I've healed. But there is so much power in sharing your story with a counselor and having them help you navigate those pathways in your brain for the trauma that you've experienced. And I'm not even joking, like I waited till this year to discuss things that I experienced in high school. So I definitely don't recommend that. The last thing that I want to share with you guys that I think is so important that I did from a spiritual side and less of a practical side is I dated this person for 2 years. It was kind of on and off towards the end. And when it finally ended and when I finally knew I wasn't going to see him again ever or have any communication with him, I found that I was healing, but I was still not releasing, if that makes sense. And so I went to youth camp that July, so gosh, a long time ago now, 6 years ago. I remember being at this youth camp and I was just so wrecked because I was like, God, why can't I let this go? I'm having dreams about this all the time. I'm having dreams about this person and I can't cut this tie and I need help. Thought I could do it on my own, but apparently I can't because I'm a human. Shocking. I know. I remember it was towards the end of a worship service. Again, worship will get you through a breakup. It will get, I mean, you need to be worshiping the Lord every single day of your life, right? But that one main thing healed my heart so much. I remember closing my eyes and praying and saying, God, I know I've been holding on to this. I want to fully release this to you if it means that like my heart will be healed, because I can't like hold on to this anymore. It's too heavy for me. And when I did that, I felt a huge weight lift off of my shoulders. And I know instantly, like in that moment, God released me from that person. If I hadn't have done that in that moment, I don't know when that would have happened. Now, does that mean I didn't have traumatic dreams over the years, or I didn't have, you know, sadness or whatever? And I think that's normal when it comes to like the first person that you date. But God really did release that main like soul tie that I had to that person. And in that moment is when I started praying in tongues for the first time. And I really have told people I had to release something in order to gain something. I'm so thankful that the Lord gave me that gift. Truly from that moment on is when I started to feel so much healing. I remember going into that fall, I started an internship and I just felt like a new woman. I felt like a different person. I felt like fearless and like I could go through life and like do anything because I had the Lord by my side. And it was so amazing. So those are my practical tips and spiritual tips. I will say though, like it's not all roses and butterflies. I had months at a time where I was depressed, like really, really depressed. Like I would not get out of bed for hours. I would just lay in bed and cry because I was so upset. I felt like a part of me was dying. And it was in a way, you know, like that's okay and that's normal and we can validate that. But there's also strength in relying on the Lord in our hard times and moving on because, you know, I don't believe that God inflicts those painful situations, but I do 1000% believe that He's with us through them. And so I just want to encourage you, if you're going through a hard time, if you're going through a breakup, or if you've lost a family member or a friend, like, God is there for you, and He wants you to lean into Him, and He wants to pour out His love abundantly, and He has so much waiting for you if you will just like release that situation to Him. And I know that sounds so corny and like a Christian community thing to say, but there's a reason why people say those simple phrases. It's because they're true. So anyways, rant ended. I love you guys. I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope it's helped you. If there's more tips I think of, I'll let you know. If there's tips that you have, leave them in the comments below for other people who may be looking for advice going through a similar situation. But I love you guys. I hope you have an amazing day, and I'll see you in my next video. Bye.